Good morning, everyone, and I want to welcome you to the California African American Water Education Foundation's, our first Leadership Summit. Today, our theme is Leadership Matters, and as you can tell by what's going on nationally and in the media, it's now more than ever, real leadership is needed. I want to start with introducing myself. I'm Rick Callender, and I have the honor to serve as the interim chair for CAAWEF, and that's what we call the California African American Water Education Foundation for short. And I'm also the CEO of Valley Water, or the Santa Clara Valley Water District. And Valley Water, we're based in the heart of Silicon Valley. We were based right in the middle of Silicon Valley, in the city of San Jose. We basically serve 2 million people in the 15 cities of Santa Clara County and have a $5.6 billion capital program budget. About the California Water Education Foundation, we're a statewide nonprofit water education organization. We were formed in early 2019. We're based in Sacramento, and we focus primarily on the African American community in California. Our mission is to educate and inform community leaders about local, regional, and state water issues, especially issues related to water quality and water rates. Our organization is governed by a great group of California leaders, and as one of the founding members of CAAWEF, I want to recognize the CAAWEF Board of Directors. The people who govern this special organization are volunteers who all have given time and energy to help build and grow basically a new startup in this nonprofit. Start with Carolyn Hunter. She's an attorney with the Sacramento firm of Sloat Higgins Jensen and a CAAWEF officer. We have Miss Gloria Gray, who's chair of the board of directors of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. We have Robert Luke, a managing director at Strategic Global Marketing Group. Jasmine Hall, vice president of the board of directors of the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. Emma Maxey, she's a retired executive of the California the Golden State Water Company. And Harold Williams, vice president of the board of directors of the West Basin Municipal Water District. And Steve Welch, general manager of the Contra Costa Water District. And I want to thank my colleagues and my fellow board members for their service and for making sure this organization is great. I also want to personally recognize the first CAAWEF chair, the Honorable Miss Gwen Moore. Miss Moore unfortunately passed away a few months ago. She left a real indelible mark on all of us. Her leadership's helped to create this organization, and the board will be considering an action at our next board meeting on how do we honor Miss Moore and her memory and her leadership with CAAWEF accordingly. And I want to thank all the panelists and the moderators in advance for their support and participation. We could not do this without you. And I want to acknowledge our program sponsors, the San Diego County Water Authority and the Water Replenishment District. And then first, thank you to the audience for being here today. We could not do this without you either. And I want to thank you for your time, for listening, and for watching what I think is going to be a great discussion. And I want to finish off with introducing our moderator, Miss Nikisha Henry from KCRA Channel 3, NBC affiliate in Sacramento.
Good morning, Rick, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And just thank you for all that you're doing as being a part of the board on CAAWEF and at Valley Water. What you're doing is so important, especially in these times. So thank you for being with us this morning. We absolutely appreciate you and your time. Yeah, so to all of our viewers, good morning and welcome, as Rick stated, to the California African American Water Education Foundation's first Leadership Summit, sponsored by San Diego County Water Authority and the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. I'm Nikisha Henry, and I am so delighted to be your moderator for this morning. And also, as Rick stated, a special thank you to all of our sponsors for today's broadcast. So just a few housekeeping items for all of you who are tuned in on this fine Friday morning with us. If you are viewing on YouTube and you have questions, be sure to email them to info@caawef.org. Or if you're viewing Facebook Live, just type them right on in the comments below. As we all know, water is the lifeblood for our state of California. How we protect, manage, and educate people about this critical resource is more important than ever. Leadership Matters is the theme for this program, and we are honored to have some amazing leaders of some of the largest water agencies right here in California joining us today. So if we can go ahead and bring our board members on, I would like to introduce each one of them. So first we'll start with Miss Gloria Gray. She's with the Metropolitan Water District. So, Ms. Gloria, if you can just introduce yourselves and tell everyone when you were elected to your water boards, the agency's mission, and your role and responsibilities as a board member.
First, thank you, Nikita, and good morning to all of you. I'm excited. First, thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts on leadership, especially as it applies to the water industry. I hold two very important roles now. I am the president of the West Basin Municipal Water District, which serves more than 1 million customers in parts of Los Angeles County and the South Bay Area. Was elected to West Basin's board of directors in 2006 as the first African American woman to serve in the district's 65-year history. I also represent West Basin on the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California Board, where I've been serving as a director since 2009. I am the first African American and second woman to lead the board in its nearly 100-year history. And in October, I was reelected for a second 2-year term. For those of you who may not know, Metropolitan is the nation's largest supplier of drinking water. We provide water to 19 million people. And to put that into perspective, we serve 1 out of every 2 Californians and 1 out of every 17 Americans. But this is not just a sign of size, but of leadership. And I'm proud to be in the top leadership roles at both of my agencies. In addition, I was honored to be appointed by former Assembly Speaker Karen Bass to the Delta Stewardship Council, where I served a 4-year term. This gave me a great perspective of the challenges and issues we face with our water supply in the Delta. Like many of my colleagues on the board, I didn't know a lot about water for much of my career. I worked in the healthcare industry. But in wanting to help my community, I started serving on many boards and taking an interest in local issues. And about 15 years ago, I was approached about running for a seat on my local water board, West Basin, and I won. Today, I'm very busy with both Metropolitan and West Basin, working to ensure we fulfill our mission to provide our customers with a safe, clean, reliable water supply in an environmentally and economically responsible way. That means planning for the future, including climate change, investing in local projects like recycling and stormwater capture and conservation, and modernizing the systems that bring water to this region from the Colorado River and Northern California via the State Water Project. That's just a snapshot of the many issues we're dealing with each and every day.
Just give you a round of applause for being the first African American and second woman to be elected. That is amazing. So amazing. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much. All right, next I would like to bring on Jasmine Hall with Inland Empire Utilities Agency.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jasmine.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I am the Vice President of the Inland Empire Utility Agency, and we provide treated wastewater. We developed recycled water for local resources. We are promoting conservation programs. We convert biosolids, compost, and then we also generate electrical energy from renewable sources. I've been on Inland Empire Utility Agency Board now for 7 years. I was appointed in 2013 and ran in 2014 and re-elected in 2018. And I have been involved with many nonprofit organizations as well as the local community colleges to help upgrade the younger generations into wastewater. IEUA mission is to provide essential services in cost-effective manners and safeguard the public health by promoting economic development and more focus by protecting the environment. And so I really go out to the community and work with the colleges to promote STEM. science, technology, energy, and math. And so that is one of the main focus of my role as an elected official, to bring up people to replace me when it's time for me to move on to my next challenge in life. And so also want to say it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate being involved today.
Awesome. It's an honor to have you, Jasmine, and thank you for bringing up the next generation. That gives a whole new meaning to each one, teach one, because it's so important for those to come up and follow in your footsteps. So thank you so much for joining us today and being with us. All right, our next board member is Harold Williams with the West Basin Municipal Water District.
And just let me greet you all in the spirit of water reliability and in the spirit of making California conservation, water conservation, that is, as a California way of life. I'm Director Harold Williams. I was elected to the West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors in November of 2014 and re-elected to the board again in 2018 to represent the city of Carson, my hometown, and all of the cities and areas on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. And we call that Division 1. I am a registered civil engineer and water resource manager by profession and public servant by application. Currently, I chair West Basin's Engineering and Operations Committee, and I've been appointed by my colleague to serve along with my colleague and wonderful chairwoman Gloria Gray on the Metropolitan Water District Board of Directors. I also I am also a member of the National Water Resources Institute and the California DSAL committee representing West Basin. My primary role and responsibility on West Basin's board is to help the board develop policies and procedures that lead to the accomplishment of our mission. And our mission, as you've heard, is water reliability. Our mission is to provide safe and reliable supply of high quality water to the communities we serve. And with that, I'd like to end with this, that West Basin is a special district that is dedicated to providing a safe and reliable supply of high quality water. And this service is essential to the district's economic development and social and cultural development. It has been said that well-run special districts like West Basin isn't conspicuous to the ratepayer and is taken for granted. We're community-based, oriented, elected officials and professionals that understand this awesome responsibility. And we continue to do our best to give the ratepayers the best possible service at the least cost. And within the operating priorities and policies approved by the board and the law. Thank you for allowing me to be here this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us, Harold. And water reliability it's vital, especially in today's time. So, thank you for everything that you do to contribute towards that cause. So if we can go ahead and bring the board members back on, Ms. Gloria and Jasmine and Harold. Yes. All right. So the California water industry is basically a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we're not just talking about bottled water, obviously. We're focused on the companies and agencies like yourselves that provide us our drinking water, which also is tap water. So at a time of accelerating disruptions, the art and science of enabling change is more important now than ever before. So, Gloria, I would like to start with you. You are a trailblazer, a leader, and chairwoman of the board of directors, the largest water agency in America. So, how has your board adjusted to this new reality of virtual board meetings and a growing work from home employee culture?
That's a great, first of all, it's a great question. All of our lives have been changed by this pandemic, but the water will almost move on. There's a little feedback. Can you hear me? Well, let me just repeat myself. That's a great question. And all of our lives have been changed by this pandemic, but the water world must move on. And so we have adjusted to how we do business as a board, as an agency. A few months ago, I heard someone say when COVID hit, our world changed 10 years in about 10 days. And by that, I think they mean we learned very quickly, had to find workable solutions and adapt faster than many thought was even possible. I'm very proud of how Metropolitan has done this. And in fact, now that our board meetings are virtual, we have the opportunity to connect with more people, hear their voices, engage the public in more meaningful ways. And that's important for an agency like ours. And our workforce has been amazing. Many employees are telecommuting and have maintained their high productivity. Our general manager has monthly virtual town hall meetings that all employees are invited to hear about the latest at Metropolitan and to ask important questions. And other managers have created opportunities to stay connected online, of course.
Mm-hmm.
In the field, we have put in place new safety protocols, deep cleaning, mask requirements, and we've created micro teams, small groups that only work together to limit any possible exposure or risk. And Metropolitan has at least 1,800 employees.
Wow.
Bottom line is that Metropolitan is keeping our water system reliable, keeping our employees as safe as possible, and serving the public with the same commitment as we always have. So I think we're doing a good job adjusting to the pandemic.
Yeah, that's amazing because that is no easy feat. Like you said, our world changed 10 years in a matter of 10 days. And so what you guys are doing is very vital to this. And so, also the accessibility piece. I love that you mentioned that because a lot of times, technology can be scary for some people, but it actually does provide more accessibility. So, I'm glad that you mentioned that because accessibility is what we all need today. And so I have one more question for you, Gloria. You were one of the first statewide leaders to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion council. So can you just give us a quick update on the council and how everything is going with that?
Thank you for that question, too, because yes, you're absolutely right. And I am extremely proud that Metropolitan's General Manager, Jeff Keidlinger, took the first step to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion council of the employees there in Metropolitan. And so as we map out our future, it has been my priority as chairwoman to involve all communities across California, especially those who may have been left out of the conversation for far too long. But that also applies to our own workforce. Remember, that's over 1,800 employees, which is why we have created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. We call it DEI, and invited our employee resource group and bargaining units to lead this effort. There are I believe, about 50 people on that council.
That's awesome.
Includes our senior managers also. So it's really a great exchange of information between employee and senior managers.
Mm-hmm.
Several times, and I've listened to each of the meetings. It's been an open and honest exchange of ideas and experiences, not always easy to hear, but in
Right.
order for us to listen and understand if we are to move forward.
Yeah.
Recently, un- unfortunately, our Black Employees Association made the decision to step back from the council just for the time being and focus their attention on the general manager's recruitment process because we are involved in recruiting a new general manager. This concerns me because the Black Employees Association were central to the establishment of the council in the first place. I'm talking with their leadership. I've talked to them several times to encourage them to re-engage with the council as soon as possible. The
Hmm.
association and its members have important and valuable insights to the discussion. We need all of our employee groups to be at the table for us to build and implement strategic inclusion and diversity plans to Metropolitan. It is clear there is much work to be done, like
Hmm.
evaluating current recruitment and hiring practices, to enlisting outside help from independent experts in the field of bias training, and promoting greater diversity in Metropolitan's business practices. We must foster conditions at Metropolitan that shift mindsets, policies, and practices to make sure we promote fairness. This will require an honest assessment, open communication, and accountability in order for us to endorse a vision that shifts culture and drives equity. This is
Hmm.
a priority for me, and it remains so today. I think it is within our grasp if we work together, and so I'm committed to doing just that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think, anytime we talk about diversity and inclusion, I don't know if we'll ever arrive to its highest peak. It's always an ongoing uphill climb. And so, being a part of that major discussion that is needed within all of the entities, honestly, I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And thank you for that because it's so much needed, especially in this area when we're talking about water reliability and accessibility. So thank you so much, Gloria. All right, next I would like to bring on board member Jasmine Hall with the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, also known as IEUA. So, Jasmine, IEUA is unique in that you have dual responsibilities as a drinking water, but also a wastewater agency. So, what new policies has your agency adopted in response to COVID-19 with the economic uncertainty and racial equity issues that persist?
Okay, thank you. Great question. So when COVID hit us all abruptly back in 2000, March 2020, and it seemed like a lifetime ago already. And IEUA responded immediately with work at home policies for all non-essential personnel in order to protect our employees' health and safety as possible. Subsequent, our HR department developed COVID-19 remote work guidelines to help our workforce navigate the remote work environment through the pandemic. And then IEUA is a wholesale water and wastewater agency. So we don't have the same customer interface issues that retail agencies have. It's a little easier for us to go virtually in many ways. Luckily, EUA has a top-notch IT department that has already set up the majority of the office employees with laptop connections to docking stations. So when the order was issued for work from home, the computer hardware and software systems were mostly in place already and ready to support telecommuting. Recently, IEUA adopted a policy to provide employees with $20 per month stipend from their home internet service retroactive to March 2020. But for those employees whose jobs require them to still come to the office, IEUA provided them with the personal protection gear, increased office sanitizing, cleanings, and established work and other policies that encourage social distancing. Finally, in recognizing that during the pandemic conditions, many folks might not want to take vacation time. So IEUA amended its policies related to banking floating holidays and has allowed those hours roll over into the new fiscal year instead of expiring, and would be a normal case of expiring every year. But now we have it to roll over so that they won't lose that time. Also, IEUA transition to being fully productive during a pandemic has been fairly painless. And as a fringe benefit, we've also become experts at teleconferencing too, which has been a challenge in the beginning, but fairly, it's a good thing to do right now. One additional policy change that has impacted my job as an elected official was authorized by the governor executive order and provides the governing body, such as IEUA Board of Directors, the ability to meet remotely via teleconferencing during the pandemic. And that's been a big change for how the public agency allowed to do business. It has worked pretty well so far, but I'm eager to meet again in person someday. We also, that the priorities at IEUA throughout the pandemic has been to make sure that our employees know that we put their safety and job security first. Technology has allowed us to continue working remotely in ways that many functionally changes how we do business in the future. One last policy, IEUA is currently updating its policies on telecommuting during non-pandemic conditions. Though this pandemic social experience was at IEUA have learned that it's quite possible to work remotely and remain fully functional at a high productivity levels, and while prolonging telecommunication might not be everyone's preference, we are willing to entertain it for those who do prefer to, so long as it's a good match with their job duties.
That is great. I think it's very important for, especially during these times with the pandemic, who would have thought that, 7, 8, 9 months later, we would still even be talking about this from the start of it. But I think it's so important for employees to be able to have that option, to come in or work home, work at home virtually, depending on the safety. And as you said before, their job duties. So, what you guys are doing, I think, continues along the mission of making sure that water is still reliable and also accessible to all those who are in need, by providing your employees and everyone, on the job, that opportunity to have that choice and still be safe, but still continue on with the duties that they need to do. So thank you so much for that, Jasmine. I do have one more question for you. Do you see the wastewater industry playing a larger role in COVID-19 research at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Our industry is already a leader in wastewater epidemiology, and which is WBE, which has been used for decades around the globe for other viruses such as polio and um, I'm sorry, what is, but the individual infected with COVID-19, whether they are symptomatic or not, shed the virus in their bodily excursions that found their way in the sewer system.
Wow.
COVID-19 has a genetic signal that is an RNA that can be detected in wastewater and serve as an effective diagnostic tool. By testing the wastewater influent and primary sludge, the RNA of COVID can be cost effectively detected and provide advance notice between 4 to 7 days before an outbreak is observed in a community. This early warning can then be used to help inform public health decisions making, such as the extent and duration of sheds in place policies, including when to open or close schools, bars, restaurants, how to prioritize testing, and where to allocate medical resources. Many wastewater agencies in California and across the nation are already pursuing analysis of their influent wastewater and primary sludge to determine the presence or the absence of COVID-19. I've also seen articles about how college campuses are utilizing wastewater board epidemiology to track down the resources of COVID-19 infections in dorms. I guess that proves how smart colleges are. But while conceptually MBE is good, simple approach offering attractive advantages for monitoring the public health, there are still technical challenges being worked out through additional research. Also, it turns out that COVID viruses have a affinity for wastewater solids. So sludge monitoring many offer advantages like better testing sensitivity and less variance in the samples collected than what you could achieve with wastewater influent monitoring. So this vulnerability in wastewater influent monitoring makes sense, especially when you take into consideration the variabilities of sewer systems across the communities. Sewer systems vary in size, configuration, and whether or not they include stormwater or industrial waste. Regardless, I am hopeful that when the vaccine for the coronaviruses one day do become available, hopefully soon, wastewater surveillances could be used to speed their deployment to the hotspot areas where upticks in infections are detected so that hospitals overcrowding is avoided and human sufferings is minimized.
Wow, this is fascinating, and I'm sure to a lot of our viewers, because, when we think about, like you said, monitoring COVID and different outbreak and hotspots, who would have thought that the wastewater industry would play such a major role in that? And I had no idea, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers had no idea that the particles, whether it be sweat or whatever it is, actually end up in the wastewater system. So what you guys are doing to actually, add surveillance to that and helping to monitor that, I think goes far beyond what we can even comprehend. Because, we talk about wearing masks, that, this is what we see on television every day. Wear your mask, wash your hands, do all of these things. But, as far as helping to try to prevent it or figuring out where hotspots are, the wastewater industry is one of the leaders in that. So that is fascinating to know that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next, I would like to bring on Harold Williams, the Vice President of the West Basin Municipal Water District. Hi, Harold.
Hi.
Welcome back. So you're a part of a governing board that has been a strong advocate and leader for recycled water. So are you converting the recycled water to drinking water?
I'm glad to since 1995, we've been producing 5 types of recycled water made from sewage water.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is our replenishment water that we use to not only to hold back seawater intrusion, but also as to replenish the groundwater basin. And like I said, we've been doing this since 1995. This barrier water is injected back into the ground where it is mixed with the existing groundwater, and we put in there about 12 million gallons a day of recycled water, and 90% of it is really used for the replenishment of the aquifer. And we do have drinking water indirectly. So that's called indirect potable reuse. And over time, in about 6 months, a slug of water that has been in the groundwater basin has gone through the natural purification of water, reaches the taps. So we have been providing recycled water, but indirectly for drinking water purposes. Hello? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay. Yes, I'm back. So with that being said, there are a number of water providers in the South Bay area of, Los Angeles County. How are you coordinating with them to ensure that folks are getting factual and timely information about the pandemic and their actual water supply?
Well, as we are the supplier of supplemental water to the South Bay, all of our purveyors, our customers, like we have 4 cities that are customers, and we have 4 wholesale water or retail water agencies. So we get this information to them through our what we call the COVID-19 update, and that's on our website. And we have on there our the COVID-19 response plan, and we have a frequently asked question portal as well. And we meet with an organization that West Basin is also a member of it. It is the West Basin Water Association, and it's primarily made up of folks who are pumpers, and they have pumping rights to the groundwater basin. Not everyone can pump out of there. West Basin really is not a pumper, but we do have rights to replenish some of the water through our groundwater desalting program. So we have a lot of educational programs that we were in place before COVID-19, but now all those things are now virtual. Because unfortunately, we can't get together. So we lose something there, but we carry on. We have their public service announcements on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, our chair, Norman Gray with Metropolitan, is featured on one of our very popular PSAs. If you have some time, go to our website and check it out. She does a real fine job. And we meet on a regular basis, and then in addition to that, we have a West Metropolitan Water District caucus that meets for the pandemic. We were meeting in our facilities there in West Basin, so we had the ear of our customers all the time. So we were never without providing information. And I think if you go to our website, it's called again COVID-19 update, and it's being updated on a regular basis.
Okay, and that's vital, and I think, it's also great what you guys have done as far as putting together, like you said, a special caucus and special task force to specifically deal with this pandemic, because, as you stated before, there are a lot of issues or challenges within the water districts prior to COVID-19, but this pandemic has brought on so much more. So the fact that you all have put together a special caucus and task force to conquer some of these challenges that continue on with COVID-19 is an amazing thing. So thank you so much, Harold, for all that you guys are doing. At this time, I would like to bring on the rest of the panel, our board members, to join us back on the broadcast. Awesome. So, as water leaders, and this question is for all of you, so feel free to jump on in. But, as water leaders, what is your outlook for 2021 and what that may look like? Because obviously the pandemic, while we thought 2021 was going to bring forth a new change, we seem to be digressing as far as the number of cases and the number of deaths within this country alone. So what is each one of your outlooks on that for 2021? Let's start with you, Gloria.
All right, I'll start. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this coming year is really a pivotal one for Metropolitan. Together, we're facing some historic decisions. We face a common enemy in climate change that will challenge each and every water supply we have relied upon. We do not know how quickly our climate will change or what will happen with our water supplies. So, to prepare, we are looking at several possible scenarios and developing an integrated water resources plan. By looking at the range of possible futures, our goal is to come up with an adaptive plan that can react to these changing circumstances. At the same time, Metropolitan and the other state water contractors are deciding whether to invest in the environmental planning work that could lead to modernizing the Delta conveyance system, a very important system that relates to imported water from the Delta.
Mm-hmm.
Though this project is costly and controversial, not making an investment would be even more costly and threaten our reliable water supply. Since about 1/3 of Southern California's water comes from the State Water Project. We also must continue to focus on investing in local water projects, very important, such as Metropolitan's proposed regional recycle water program. Metropolitan's board earlier this month voted to fund the environmental planning work for the project. If built, this would be one of the largest advanced water treatment plants in the world.
Wow.
We continue to support other initiatives to increase our ability to use groundwater, stormwater, and other local resources. And we take meaningful actions that help guard the future of the many communities we serve in Southern California, such as working with the state and many agencies to provide support for communities that regularly lack safe drinking water and identify at-risk areas that may also need help. We also are promoting conservation in our homes, businesses, and communities. We are engaging in strategic long-range planning to guide our investments, and we are promoting innovation and new technology. And lastly, protecting ecosystems in our environment. These are just a few of the many projects we are moving forward to address the challenges we face to our water supply. Now, that might seem daunting, but Metropolitan and other water agencies like my agency, West Basin Municipal Water District, have a legacy of working together to tackle the big challenges. It's in our DNA, and I am confident that we can meet these challenges together.
Absolutely. It is absolutely in your DNA. Thank you so much, Gloria. So you talked about recognizing and finding where the at-risk areas are. So for you, Harold or Jasmine, as we know, there are a lot of areas where water accessibility or reliability is not the best. And a lot of those areas include areas where there's, racial equity issues, and so the lack of access. And we all know, what happened in Flint, Michigan, with the water crisis there. So what are some things specifically? What does that look like once an area, an at-risk area is realized? What does that look like on you guys' end in figuring out how to bridge that gap?
For West Basin, that it's not too much of an issue to us. We get our water from the Metropolitan Water District, and it comes in from the Colorado River State Water Project, and we distribute that to the retailers and cities in our area.
Okay.
So we don't have much there to do. But what's more important to us, I think, is that a source of water, local supply, that seems to be overlooked and in some ways denigrated by the environmental community, and that is ocean water desalination. That is a local supply that can withstand earthquakes, climate change, and many other issues. But people seem to dismiss it as being too expensive and harmful to the environment. We've done the work for years researching how to do responsible ocean water desalination. And we have, as a matter of fact, last year, we approved an environmental impact report that spells out how we can do that. And right now, we're in the throes of evaluating that in terms of permitting, and some other things that we're going to have to do in order to be able to make that ocean water desalination a reality. But it is just as important as the recycled water program, because you cannot recycle what you don't have. Recycled water comes in to our area, our district, Metropolitan Water District. A lot of that is supplemental water. The supplemental water is imported water. If that goes away for issues concerning earthquakes, and we have issues in our recycling program, purifying sewer water, and the COVID-19 virus warps into something else. That will go away. But ocean water will still be there. And the ocean is pretty big. And like everything else, over time, costs to purify that is going to come down. So I'm more concerned about us overlooking ocean water desalination because of the business of our business model. And I look to Metropolitan Water District to look for those hot spots that might develop into the next Flint.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, that's just as equally as important. And thank you so much for bringing awareness to that. Jasmine, I would like to forward the same question over to you as far as, preventing any type of water crisis similar to what happened in Flint and some of the high-risk areas. What does that look like for your agency?
The Inland Empire Utility Agency, we are a wholesaler for Metropolitan Water District. So we provide the water to our 7 members, which is the City of Ontario, Chino Hills, Fontana, and Mount Clair, and Upland. And so what we do as a wholesaler, we provide the water to them when it's needed and make sure that it's safe and available. Majority of our business is to collect the waste that is being collected in the area. And so we are taking that wastewater and treating it to use it as recycled water. So that recycled water that we use, it will be used in areas where we would have more potable water available for our almost a million people that's within the region of the Inland Empire. So what we try to do is really make sure we take the wastewater and treat it and use it for recycling. But we also have invested in a big project called the CB Chino Basin Program. And what's that's going to do with a lot of resources that we receive from the state is to provide a source of treated drinking water within the region. So if anything of a catastrophe occurs, as an earthquake, we would have water within the region here that we can provide within a certain amount of time to the area, and until things can get repaired or fixed. And that project has been one of the biggest projects that IEUA has participated in since we've been around for the 72 years. So we're looking at integrated resource planning. We're working with neighboring water agencies. We're looking at ways that we can treat more water and store it, and have it stored in the region so that it will be available if there is a disaster or catastrophe where we're not able to get water from Met. We will have it and be able to provide, and also allow Met the ability to handle the customers within the other part of Southern California. So it's an integrated resource program that we all working together to make sure that the whole Southern California are working together, partnershiping, and being able to sustain for the future.
Yeah, and sustainability is key. And I think if nothing else, COVID-19 has taught us that. And, what you all are doing collectively is so important, because it's all about preparation. Because I think also, this pandemic has showed us that we were not prepared for this, and so what you all are doing, as I stated before, collectively to make sure that there's safe, accessible water in the event of a crisis or, another outbreak or whatever the issue may be, you guys will be prepared for that, to make sure that people have safe, accessible water. So thank you so much for that. So we are, as they say, time flies when you're having fun, and we're almost nearing the end of this broadcast. So I just wanted to go around to each of you, and if you can just take a minute or less and just share any last words that you would like to share with our viewers, any last minute thoughts that you may have. Let's start with you, Harold.
Oh, yes. Yes. That this is uncharted territory for us all. And we're going to have to be just diligent in trying to stay safe, and more importantly, right now, to stay home. Thank you.
Stay safe and stay home. Very well put. Thank you, Harold. Jasmine?
I think that the leadership really is going to be a top priority for, I'll say locally, for us to work together to follow what the governor is saying, to be able to protect our essential employees as well as ourselves. And so looking at joining together, collaborating together with effective skill sets that we're communicating. We're looking at it that we're all in it together. It's not just a problem that's associated with a side or
Right.
or group. It is how we stand together for our people, that we looking for the future. We looking at the current lives, our longevity. So it's very important that we are I'll say transparent, open, and good, effective leaders, that we communicate. I mean, just be effective. And, if it's something that we need to know and you don't want to say what it is, I think people will accept the information truthfully and not, mislead them. And that's some of the things that, my whole campaign and my whole being an elected official is, I want to make sure that I communicate with the constituents who put me in office, and I want them to reach me when they need me and be able to get back to them with the information that I am aware of, and if not, connect them with the right people and the right source of information. So, because it's important that no more lives are lost if
Yes.
possible. you know, let's work together and make this happen and get through this. And, you know, I just want to say thank you and God bless you all. And I really appreciate being here.
Yes, no, thank you, Jasmine, and God bless you as well. And you so eloquently put it, we are better together, you know, and so the every different aspect, everything that you all are bringing to the table in that collaborative effort is important, is not even the word. So, you know, thank you all for that. And last but certainly not least, Gloria, any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, well, I want to my fellow panelists for their comments this morning, and I totally agree with certainly their last comments and so forth. I want to thank Bell Hunter and his staff, and certainly the board for having this summit. And thank you, Nikita, for being an excellent host this morning. You've been
Thank you.
excellent. And so I'm just happy to be part of this. I know our theme was leadership, and just a couple words about leadership. I think it's very important that we have a diverse leadership as we look at water issues, because we are making some very important decisions that impact all communities. And so it's very important that we have the diversity of leadership, because it's not just diversity of ethnicity, but also diversity of gender, because I believe diversity brings diversity of thought and perspectives that can make a better outcome. So I really applaud the fact that this was discussed this morning. I just want to make a couple of comments regarding the issue of safe water and addressing some of the issues of disadvantaged communities, because they are very important as we look at water policy. Jasmine and Harold certainly talked about Metropolitan and their agency, serving West Basin, is a wholesaler. We sell water. We do not deliver water directly to the customer. We sell water to municipalities and private water companies. And so, because we treat the water we sell, we have standards that we have to make. There are regulations, state regulations, there are health standards. So we have to provide a safe and reliable supply of water. We do have programs for disadvantaged communities. Metropolitan certainly has water conservation programs. West Basin does, and other water agencies that help the community conserve water. And affordability is an issue that Metropolitan will be taking up this year. That's a very important issue as we look at our rate period. So I want everyone to realize that we not only are committed to our mission of providing a safe and reliable supply of water, but we are committed to understanding that affordability is very important to our community. So again, leadership is very important as we make these key decisions. So thank you very much for having me on the panel this morning, and thank you to the California African American Water Education Foundation. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. It has been a pleasure. Thank you all, you know, for your vital roles in being board members and, you know, great advice and information on the outlook for 2021 from you all in the water industry. And once again, you know, just thank you guys for the invaluable information. I think a lot, especially for our viewers, a lot of knowledge was shared today that we had no idea about. So we appreciate your time this morning. And, you know, I also want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in, you know, taking the time out of your day to learn more about the water industry, learn more about what they are doing each and every step of the way to make sure that water will continue to be reliable and accessible to you all. So with that being said, on the behalf of CAAWEF, I'm Nikisha Henry, your moderator. I had the pleasure of being with you, and I want to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. Please stay safe out there, you guys. Stay safe and eat plenty. God bless you all. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dale Hunter with CAAWEF.
What a great program that you started this morning. We're honored today. We have a very special guest. We have the Honorable Dr. Shirley Weber. I have the pleasure of saying a few remarks about Dr. Weber. She is a state assembly member representing the 79th district in San Diego. She is considered one of the most effective legislators in the state capitol. She's authored a number of big bills, big ticket stuff, legislation around education reform, education and school funding, police use of force, and racial justice issues. She focuses on landmark issues that transform our great state. The former university professor is also the chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus. We had the honor of the caucus supporting our group when we first started about a year ago, thanks to Dr. Weber. She is truly a leader. She reflects the best in leadership in terms of action. Please welcome the Honorable Dr. Shirley Weber.
I want to thank you for inviting me in this morning. I'm going to have to apologize because our connections in San Diego are very, very poor. I had a tremendous problem last night going on and off with StreamYard, and so and I'm barely hearing what folks are saying, and so it goes in and out. So I want to apologize from the beginning, and I won't belabor the issue with me here, but just want to thank you once again for the work that you're doing. The California African American Water Foundation is landmark. It's extremely important because most of the time we don't think of Black folks in water. We think that we are the folks who receive water, and sometimes not the best quality water, as we've seen across the nation. And so water, though, is extremely important in everyone's life. And so when we enter the rooms at the Capitol and we have conversations about water, it's very clear who's absent from that room. And oftentimes it's African Americans. So I was excited when Bill Hunter started talking about forming this organization, doing the work that you're doing, and basically becoming major players in the water field in California. Anyone who studies California history knows that California has always had a water issue. Anyone who comes to San Diego knows that San Diego has no water, despite being surrounded by the ocean. We have no natural source of water ourselves. And so much of our conversation in San Diego has always been about water, about whether or not, we're going to pump it in from Colorado, or whether it's going to come, through Arizona, or whether we're going to build a plant that's going to basically desalinate the ocean water. California has no natural source of water. So it has always been a major issue in San Diego for us, whether I was on the school board or any elected capacity, that our water district is always working to try to make a difference. And so we've been conscious of that. But interestingly enough, not everyone in the state has been very conscious, but we just assume it happens, and water happens, it comes from somewhere. So it's really great to have you with us, Bill Hunter, to basically kind of constantly raise the issue of why this is important and why African Americans should be major players in it. So I want to welcome you all to this conference, welcome you to San Diego, because we know this is a place where innovative things happen and people work hard to try to deal with the issues that are there. And we look forward to new kinds of businesses and new opportunities always in San Diego. It's kind of the forgotten city down south, and people have a tendency to stop at Los Angeles and think that's the end of the world and that the rest is Mexico. But believe it or not, the second largest city is here in San Diego. And we work very hard to make sure that we are heard, that our voices are heard, that our legislation is significant, that it impacts the lives of a whole lot of people every day. So I want to just thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I know my connection is going in and out, but just wanted to make sure that I was here to welcome you, to welcome all of your efforts and the hard work that you're doing there. The Black Caucus is very proud of the work that you do. We anticipate working with you as you grow and develop, and you form your foundation, and your board members are eager and to do the business. And obviously you're a great leader in bringing this forward and bringing it to us here in California. So once again, welcome to this conference. I'm proud to be a part of what is going on right now. And I thank you for your hard work, your dedication, and your persistence in bringing this forward in an area that most folks haven't thought about. But that's one of the things that we have to continue to do. There's so many areas that we're left out of, and we just have to continue to push those doors open, to create those opportunities for ourselves and for the future generations, so that people realize that everything everything in California, everything in this nation, everything in this world has an impact on African Americans, and we have a responsibility to be intricately involved. So once again, thank you for asking me to be here this morning, just to say welcome and say a few words and to let you know how proud we are of the work that you do and our willingness to continue to work and to support the efforts of the California Association of Water, the Water Foundation. Take care.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Weber. We really appreciate that. We are getting ready for our next panel. We have the executive officers, the chief executive officers, the general managers of some large and water agencies in California. I'm honored to turn it over to my good friend, Miss Regina Wilson. She's the president of California Black Media, and she's going to lead our second panel with the chief executives of some of the water agencies in California. Regina?
Thank you so much, Dale. I'm so happy to be on with you guys today. This is the second half of CAAWEF's first Leadership Summit, which is sponsored by the San Diego County Water District Authority and the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. Again, I want to give thanks to our sponsors and thank you. Technology issues from time to time. Just a few housekeeping rules. I wanted to make sure that if you're viewing this on YouTube and you have questions, please email them to info@caawef.org. Once again, that's info@caawef.org. If you're viewing this on Facebook, just please type those comments right into the box. Now, we're excited about this next panel. They're general managers and chief executive officers for large water and wastewater organizations in California. A leadership expert once said, anyone can lead when the plan is working, but the best will lead when the plan falls apart. And for most of us, hey, 2020 has likely made sure that some of your plans have fallen apart. With waves of COVID-19 coming at us and immense economic uncertainty looming, leadership is more important than ever before. The theme for this program today is Leadership Matters. General managers, I think I see you guys in the box. I don't see you in the box, but I know that you guys are there. I want you to just kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves and your location and where your agency is and your responsibilities. And so maybe we'll start with Mr. Steve Welsh.
Hello, hi, thank you, and it's a great honor to be here today. Our agency's in Central Contra Costa County in Northern California. We're an California Delta water supplier. We serve about 500,000 customers, both treated water and wholesale untreated water, and we're really looking forward to the discussion here this morning. Thank you.
Thanks. Sandra.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be here. I'm the general manager of the San Diego County Water Authority. It was such a pleasure to hear Dr. Weber. We are so honored to have her as our representative. We are a water wholesaler. We provide water to 3.3 million people and support a $245 billion economy. I have 24 member agencies and 36 member board of directors, and we've been focused on innovation and ensuring water reliability here in San Diego County. As you heard Dr. Weber, we're at the end of the pipeline, so it's very critical to make sure we have reliability. Thank you.
Thanks. Rob.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Whitaker, and I'm the general manager of the Water Replenishment District. We're a public agency with a publicly elected board of directors. We have 5 directors, each with divisions of about 800,000 residents. I've been with the Water Replenishment District, or WRD, since that's a tongue twister, since 1991, and I've been the general manager since 2003. WRD manages 2 of the most heavily utilized groundwater basins in California. These basins are located in the southern part of LA County, and our service area includes 43 cities. We exist because the amount of water that's allowed to be extracted from our basins is actually double the amount that nature can replenish. So we were created to supplement that natural replenishment, and I'll talk about that more later in the program. So thank you again for having me here today.
Yes, thank you. That's great. And Roland?
Yes, hi, Regina. My name is Roland Williams. I'm the general manager of the Castro Valley Sanitary District. We're here in the San Francisco Bay Area. You can tell by over my shoulder, there's a picture of the Bay Bridge. And we provide wastewater and solid waste services to the community of Castro Valley. We are not necessarily considered a large agency by definition, but we are an integral part of the service that's provided to our community. I've been the general manager for 18 years. I've been at the organization since 1995. I'm also a member of CAAWEF, which is the California Water Environment Association. I'm a board member of the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, and also I'm a board member of the California Risk Management Authority. So I've got my hands at everything wastewater, and it's just as important as water is to the state.
Great. And I think our last person on the panel is Shivaji.
Hi,
Did
Regina.
I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Right?
Thank you. And of course, a plane is flying overhead when it's my turn to speak. So I apologize for the background noise. Want to start off by saying thanks to CAAWEF for hosting this panel, as well as the panel before, and really happy to serve on it. I'm the general manager of the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. We're a special district located in southwest San Bernardino County, serving a population just under 900,000. I've been in the position for just over a year and a half, so relatively new. We are a municipal water district, a metropolitan water district member agency, but we also have the responsibility of providing wastewater collection, treatment, and delivery of all the recycled water that comes out of our plant to our service area. We've got the one of the things that I'm most proud about working at IUA is the fact that we're able to recycle 100% of our wastewater flows, producing recycled water for direct use and groundwater recharge. Another thing that we've done quite well working through partnerships is even recycling our biosolids. So 100% of our biosolids goes to a joint project we have with LA County Sanitation, where we turn all of that into compost. And interestingly enough, during the pandemic, the compost sales have never been higher. I guess a lot of us are doing landscape work with all the time at home. So it's been an interesting observation. I did mention we are a special district governed by 5 elected officials. This event, we were fortunate to have Vice President Jasmine Hall present on an earlier panel. So she's one of the 5 elected officials and currently our vice president. So once again, glad to be here.
Great. Well, thank you to all of our panelists. As we continue our conversation about water issues, we know that California water industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We focus on companies and agencies that provide our drinking water, tap water. And at a time of accelerating disruptions, the art and science of enabling change is more important than ever. Mr. Welsh, I know you were one of the founding members of the board for CAAWEF on the you run the Contra Costa Water District. How are you keeping employees engaged when so many are working from home?
Sure, we found out pretty early that's a very difficult problem, and a lot of the synergies and collaboration that you have when you work in person are missing, and we've been trying to find new ways to do that. So a few of the methods we've used during this pandemic is I've been holding regular town halls and various sub-meetings using different formats like Zoom and Teams, and try to engage our staff that way. We encourage regular communication with our managers with their staff using the same types of formats. We've been able to cycle some staff to come in for occasional visits to their offices to have some engagement with their management and with their coworkers. And we also have been using various social media methods to try to communicate and keep our team members engaged. It's a very difficult problem, and I'm always interested in hearing other ideas that others are doing as well in this area.
Yeah, no, it's a challenging time for everyone. The new virtual reality is real. You know, what communication tool platforms? I mean, I know you kind of spoke about some of the social media platforms. How are those? How is your customers, and how are your employees, how are they taking to that? I mean, is it, I know nothing can replace being in the room with someone, but are they taking to that well, or is it just kind of a struggle for all of us? So we all know that we're not all failing.
Sure. Well, our customers have been very supportive and responsive, and we really appreciate that. We had to early on close our lobbies at our various offices, and that really lost contact with our customers. But we quickly supplemented it with social media contacts, with more information on our website. Something we found that has worked very effectively is we got in touch with the schools early on, hearing that knowing that their students were all at home as well, and created different educational programs related to water to help them out. And we've really implemented with virtual tours and various workshops. We've created new forums to our customers, for our customers to communicate with us. And we've been using those. They've worked quite well. Again, we're very appreciative of our customers responding to that. We had to try to find new ways to work with them.
Yeah, well, one more question here. Your agency has been a leader in drinking water treatment technology. What specifically are you doing to protect your drinking water?
Well, fortunately, the methods of disinfection that we use for treated water, in fact, I think for pretty much everybody, make sure that COVID can't survive our process. So from the perspective of COVID's risk to our population through the water supply, there is no risk. Our other methods have continued to stay in place, where we protect our watershed at the very source of our water, and then make sure that we continue capital investments and maintenance of our treatment facilities so that our treatment process is the best it can be, that we not only meet all water quality regulations, but exceed them, and ensuring our customers have a confidence in their water supply being safe and reliable. And we've been looking at as the number one thing we can do for the COVID response is to make sure that the customers have faith in the safety and reliability of their water supply.
Right. Well, thank you for that. You know, Sandra, this next question's for you. And you're the general manager of San Diego County Water Authority, one of the largest water agencies in the state. What's your water supply outlook for the next few years?
We're in really good condition at the Water Authority. We've made investments over the last 25 years, not only to bring in new supply to the region, but also to provide storage in the event of an emergency, whether that be an earthquake that breaks down pipelines or ongoing drought. As you may be aware, the San Diego County Water Authority has the largest desalination plant in North America, the Carlsbad desal plant. It provides about 10% of our water and is here locally. So that has been a key element in our reliability. We also have the quantification settlement agreement, which provides us water through on-farm conservation practices and relining of two canals that we did, the All-American and the Coachella Canal. The water through what we call the QSA represents about half of the water that we use here in San Diego County. And in addition to that, we did the largest dam raise in the world, which is right behind me, is at San Vicente Dam, which created another 115 feet of storage, so that we have more in-region storage again for those emergency situations. So we find ourselves well poised, and as you know, we've had wet last couple of years, which has also assisted us out greatly in filling our storage.
So in light of your current realities, are you changing course or canceling any of your infrastructure projects?
We are not. We have been able to continue our projects. Most of our projects right now are on repair and replacement. And fortunately, because of the contractors that we've worked with and safe practices in COVID, we've been able to continue those projects and make sure that we're keeping the system maintained to provide the delivery of water. So we've fared very well through COVID. It's been challenging, but we've just pivoted and continued the work.
Great. So water rates, as you know, are a growing concern statewide. Do you foresee large water rate increases for your agency?
In San Diego County, because we have such strong reliability and we've made investments in new supplies and infrastructure, we've seen rate increases over time, but those are leveling out now that our major investments have been made. We see other agencies that are more on the cusp of that, of additional rate increases. Ours continue to be following through with just normal cost adjustments. But we are very concerned about affordability and looking for ways to be able to control our cost and therefore control the cost of water because we have so many folks affected by COVID, economically disadvantaged communities. It's something on the forefront of our mind.
Yeah. And so with that, with disadvantaged communities and knowing that, there's just growing concern and unemployment, what are you doing now to kind of recruit new talent, upgrade skills of your current employees, and kind of keep pace with the rapidly changing world?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. I think in the water space, we all have focused on innovation, and nothing has been more critical during COVID than being innovative and pivoting, turning everything that we do on its head. Within a week, we had 75% of our workforce working remotely. We didn't miss a beat. We continued to deliver the water, and we used it as an opportunity to engage with our employees in our community. And for example, with my employees, I hold a weekly Teams call and we go over what's happening in the agencies. It's an opportunity for the employees that would never get to present to the whole organization to come online with me and talk about the work that they're doing and their interest and really build this sense of community because we're not in the office together. And with the public, it's been an opportunity to talk about the safety of tap water and to engage in communities throughout the region that have had questions about the safety of tap water and be able to communicate that, do webinars, do media outreach, so that folks know that they don't have to spend their hard-earned money on bottled water, that they can turn the tap and it's safe and reliable for them to use.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that. I now want to jump to Rob, who's the General Manager of the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. You recently were presented with the 2020 Excellence in Water Leadership Award. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
As a groundwater expert, what are you doing to protect groundwater supplies from contamination and other harmful chemicals?
Thank you, Regina. The Water Replenishment District's longest standing and most successful program to address groundwater contamination is what we call our Safe Drinking Water Program. This is a 30-year-old program that provides grants and no interest loans to those in our groundwater pumping community that have wells affected by various types of contamination, both man-made and natural. And those projects that we provide funding for remove and safely treat contaminated groundwater from our groundwater basins. So we get a twofold benefit. Taking that water out of the ground prevents that contamination from moving to other wells and affecting those. And it allows that well to continue to be used as a drinking water supply. So it maintains the ability to tap into our local groundwater resources. At WRD, this program has resulted in nearly 30 wellhead treatment projects. Recently, we've devoted a lot of attention to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS for short. Chemicals in the PFAS family are found in products like nonstick pans, Teflon, food packaging, waterproof jackets, carpets, anything that repels water, grease, stains, also used in firefighting foam, and even personal care products like waterproof mascaras, eyeliners, which is why I'm not wearing any of that today. Sunscreen, shampoo, and even shaving cream contain PFAS. And these chemicals don't easily break down, and they can persist in your body and in the environment for decades, which is why they are referred to as a forever chemical. WRD just approved an expansion of our safe drinking water program dedicated to PFAS to provide $34 million of funding as a fund lead from WRD to construct treatment systems specifically for PFAS, wells affected by PFAS in our groundwater basin. We put that program together very quickly because there's a lot going on with this family of chemicals, and a lot of the response levels and notification levels are changing, and things are moving quickly. So we've wanted to be responsive to that. We also have what we call a well destruction program, and that sounds a little strong, but that's the terminology used for taking a drinking water well that's no longer being used and properly destroying it and taking it out of service. In our basins, an abandoned well, especially a deep well, can be conduit for contamination that might be in the shallower parts of the basin to actually migrate down into deeper parts of the basin and spread even further. So we have a program in place that will locate those wells and work with the well owners, or we'll take the lead if we can't locate a well owner to fill in those wells and properly destroy those and register those with the regulatory authorities. We've also funded contamination studies that have resulted in responsible parties in our areas having to address remediation of more contaminants than have been previously required by EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency in our area. And that's what we're doing to try and prevent contamination. A lot of what we're dealing with is contamination in the basin that has occurred prior to regulations becoming more strict. And that contamination has been in the ground for many, many decades. But so far, we're having a lot of success with that and being able to sustain our local groundwater supplies through this treatment program.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. So how much of your water supply comes from stormwater or recycle programs?
That's a good question, and something that we've been working hard on in terms of developing local supplies. To put it in perspective, we have 4 million residents in our service area that reside in 43 cities. And in our region, groundwater makes up half of the total water supply. As I mentioned earlier, WRD was created because the amount of water that's allowed to be extracted from our groundwater basins through longstanding legal adjudications in southern Los Angeles County is more than double what Mother Nature can sustain. When WRD was first created 60 years ago, by far most of the water that we used as artificial replenishment was water imported from the Bay Delta or the Colorado River watershed. And over the years, we've developed the use of recycled water, and where we could, increase the capture of stormwater to offset that demand for imported water to replenish the groundwater basins. But still, by and large, our largest supply of replenishment water in our replenishment portfolio was imported water. Last year, we actually completed a long-term effort that was put in place about 14 years ago to develop enough local resources, mostly recycled water, to completely offset WRD's demand for imported water for water replenishment. And that program we called our Water Independence Now program, or WIN for short. And as I mentioned, that greatly increased our use of recycled water to achieve that goal of local independence. And I'm happy to report that today, the groundwater supply in southern LA County, again, which makes up half of the water supply in our region, is now 100% locally sustainable. About 30% of that is stormwater, and the rest is recycled water supplies.
So what you're saying is, so stormwater can become a real water supply.
It can be. There are some difficulties associated with that, and a lot of the low-hanging fruit in terms of stormwater capture has been picked. In our service area, we have these concrete-lined river channels, the lower part of LA River and the San Gabriel River, that were designed in the 50s and 60s to take water out to the ocean, stormwater, as quickly as possible. And to make use of stormwater, you want to slow that down. You need to have space to allow time for that water to percolate into the ground. So we're doing it where we can. We're continuing to work with the LA County Department of Public Works and the Army Corps of Engineers at their facilities to try and capture more stormwater. But those opportunities in our very urbanized area are becoming harder and more expensive.
Ah, okay. So what's the current status? This is just a fun question. What's the current status of your diversity and inclusion efforts?
Well, at WRD, we are committed to employing staff that are reflective of the diverse population in Southern LA County. We're also committed to retaining staff and promoting from within our agency when and where possible. Right now, 40% of the management team at WRD are minorities and women. Over half of the workforce at WRD have at least 5 years of service at the district, with 40% of our employees having over 15 years of experience. 40% of our managerial and executive positions are a result of internal promotions, which we're proud of. But our diversity efforts don't stop at staff. Earlier this year, our board of directors adopted a resolution to increase the amount of local and small businesses that secure contracts with WRD. That resolution encourages and solicits participation from many types of services: construction, professional services, material supplies, equipment contracts, and we are looking to develop those relationships and those contracts as much as possible from within our service area to better reflect the population of our region. So we're looking forward to that program getting underway as well.
Well, Rob, I just want to thank you, because I will let you know too that I too don't wear mascara. So this whole COVID thing, I haven't worn mascara for the past 9 months, and I hope that I'm helping to contribute to making your job easier.
Okay. Thank you for
that. Thank you so much. My next question is really for Roland Williams, who's the general manager of Castro Valley Sanitation District. As a wastewater and sewer district, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your company? Obviously, I know it's affected everybody, but how has it affected you guys?
No, yeah, that's a great question, Regina. As you know, with the shutdowns and the shelter in place that has gone into effect starting in early March, wastewater and solid waste services were considered essential. And so we had to firstly develop a way of continuing those services while keeping our employees safe. But I think I wanted to kind of break this into a couple of sections. The first thing that we saw right away was basically our services kind of shifted as businesses shut down. Obviously, their wastewater flow and their waste stream from their garbage reduced. However, from the home, those waste streams increased. And what's interesting is the way we usually bill or charge commercial is more based on the quantity of their waste stream, and for homes is usually by category. So what was happening was for the services that we didn't have a mechanism to raise rates, which was for residential, we were seeing more service needs there, and where it was more flexible with the commercials, those actually reduced. And so what happened was early on, we kind of had an offset in terms of funding, and that's something we're continuing to manage, and we're doing it quite well. We've basically seen about a 25% drop though in revenue as a result of that. So that's one of the things that have been affected, even though we still have to continue to provide those services. The other thing we noticed, particularly in wastewater, is that because a lot of people are home, one of the things that are have been very difficult for us to address are flushable wipes, which if you know anything about them, They are only flushable by definition, but they are very difficult on the wastewater infrastructure. And with a lot of people at home and a lot of people being concerned about the virus and being more vigilant about cleaning surfaces and those kinds of things, we're starting to see a lot more of those show up at pump stations, at the treatment plant, in the form of ragging of facilities. And so we've really tried to do a big effort to make sure that people understand that those are things that we really don't want in the wastewater stream, and they do have an effect on our operation. As far as staffing, we've been able to have most of our admin and engineering staff and other, kind of non-field work to be able to work from home. We were able to have them basically take their workstations home. We had them sign off on some kind of temporary work from home agreements. And so that has really helped out really well. But we have a lot of folks that have boots on the ground, and they have to continue to work. We've had to split them into 2 shifts, basically 2 groups to continue to work where there used to be one cohesive group. And that was because we were concerned that if we did have any positive tests among our staff, we wanted to contain how many people would have to be quarantined. And so that's been something that we've had to do. Fortunately, with the vigilance of a lot of our staff, and I can say this for a vast majority of wastewater agencies, we've had a very low recordation of positive tests or the need to actually try to go into any quarantine. So that's been very helpful. And then the last thing that we've been doing is you may have heard about a lot of the testing of wastewater because the virus is present in the water. And so that has been something that we've been doing in conjunction with UC Berkeley. Got to give a shout out to Berkeley in Northern California to test for SARS and COVID-19 virus monitoring. And they're trying to do that to get a better understanding of how much of the population might have positive results that are much more reliable than how many people are actually testing, to be able to get a greater understanding of how prevalent the virus and positive tests may be in the community.
Oh, wow. So sounds like you guys are knee deep in wastewater and wipes over there. So how, when we look at this and we look at wastewater agencies, would you say, I guess, that your fight against COVID-19, it stems in a lot of different directions? So it's partially you working with a university to start helping get better understanding of how the virus is playing out, as well as trying to educate the public. And it sounds like this would be a nice statewide campaign. So this is a shameless plug, but it sounds like there needs to be a statewide campaign that people know, just don't flush those wipes.
Absolutely.
So how are your employees reacting to the new work at home culture?
Our group has, and our organization has really kind of leaned into resiliency even before the pandemic. And so the pivot to working from home was relatively seamless as more and more of our work has been done with the use of mobile tools. Our crews, a lot of the work that they do to execute their work has been done on handheld devices, as well as most of the staff uses laptops or tablets to accomplish their tasks. So to move them to home was not a big lift. The one thing that we did find was that culturally, there are a lot of connections that our staff has with their coworkers. And so, again, we've employed tools to make sure that from a social standpoint, that we connect with our employees on a very regular basis. We use Zoom and Teams and every other form of video conference communication tools to be able to communicate with one another. But we've also done things where we've had opportunities to just have some meetings where we'll play games, where we find out what's going on with our staff. That's really important for our staff. As we move back into trying to get people back into the office, that has certainly been a new challenge in terms of a lot of times just the way your offices were configured, they just won't work in the future in terms of making sure that there's a social distance, particularly in cubicle land. How do you get all those people back in those offices? We've again looked at ways of we have to put barriers in. We have to figure out how to have people work on different shifts and to come in. And then also we've had a cleaning protocol where we've actually have to come through and clean particularly common space at least twice a day for the safety of our workers.
Wow. So on top of all of that and all the other responsibilities you have, how are you doing this and recruiting new talent to the agency?
Yeah, that's a really important question. I think it's well known that in the water and wastewater agency, it's an aging workforce. The average age of most workers in our industry is north of 47, 48 years old. And so there's this notion of a silver tsunami and that we will need to be backfilling those positions. Fortunately for us, currently, we didn't have to lay anybody off, again, because we were essential and because we needed to continue to perform our tasks. But the need to provide new workers is vitally important. One of the things that we do is we work real closely with ROP. A lot of times the workers that you need, you need engineers and you need accountants and you need people with business acumen, but you also need people who have mechanical aptitude, who can work with their hands and who aren't afraid to work in the field. And so, and that's where a lot of those workers are going to be needed in the future. And so it's going to be really important to seek out those people to fill those positions. As far as how we're doing it now, a lot of the positions are being filled where it's all done remotely. For the first time, we've had remote panels where we're interviewing staff remotely and making decisions about hiring people based on a lot of the remote interactions. And then the training is also is been a challenge as well, because trying to not have too many people interact with staff, and then lastly, a lot of times those staff will need to either work from home or work with less oversight, and so there is a need to make sure that you're finding people that are highly motivated and may need to work with a little less supervision than you might otherwise have, and then being able to perform well.
Right. Well, looks like you have a lot cut out for you. In 2021, what do you see as the top priorities for your agency?
One of the things that we're looking at doing in 2021 is firstly, one of the things our organization did was we have pushed a lot more money into infrastructure and capital improvement. We think that this might be a good opportunity for the water and wastewater agencies and the industry as a whole to be integral in stimulating the resurgence of our economy. And we think that there's been a lot of projects that may have been put on hold because of COVID. We think there's a great opportunity for us to be part of that process. I know that our agency, as well as my work with CAAWEF and some of the other organizations, are really encouraging both Washington and Sacramento to find funds to fund important projects, recycled water projects, nutrient optimization projects, biosolids management projects that can inject cash and revenue into the economy to be able to stimulate growth and a recovery that's so vastly needed right now as we hopefully come out, as vaccines are started to be released, and that we try to open up our economy again.
You know what, Roland, thank you so much. That was just fascinating and great to learn about wastewater. I didn't know it could be so interesting.
It's my passion.
Next, we have Shivaji Dijmonk, and I'm hoping I know that I think I said your name right. General Manager for the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. And that is my hometown. So I am from the IE. Even though you see my lovely background, I look like I'm in my London office. I am from the IE. And so last year you were selected as the new IE UA General Manager. What's the biggest challenge of your job?
Well, it's been a great onboarding for me. Like I mentioned before, I've been there about a year and a half. And I got to say, the biggest challenge for me, while there's been a lot of great opportunities there, is what I describe as connecting the dots. We are a municipal water district. First and foremost, we were an agency to help provide supplemental water to our customers. But about 20 years after we were formed, we took on the responsibility of handling wastewater treatment, collection and treatment for roughly the same region. We established a regional contract which documents our relationship, identifies our responsibilities as well as our customers. And that was on the wastewater side. So right there, we have two different responsibilities. And over the past few decades, the siloing of the water side of our business and the wastewater side has been very prevalent. And with recycled water, it's really connected the two. And so it's not a unique problem to IUA. Many agencies have this in terms of looking at what our mission is, where our jurisdiction lies, and trying to connect everything together. So, for example, at IUA, I mentioned this regional contract. It addresses the way we manage our wastewater system. On the water side, there's actually a separate group of agencies, some who have the wastewater responsibility, some who don't. So in every situation, it requires a discrete and unique relationship. On top of that, we are located right in the middle of the Santa Ana River watershed. And one of the neat things about our area within the Santa Ana River watershed is we have a unique, or actually a model that's been the example for the state when it comes to regional planning on water issues. And we're part of that. It's called the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, or SAPA. And it's a joint powers authority that connects 5 different agencies within a watershed. And as many people know, everything that happens in a watershed has an impact on other areas. Even though our political boundaries may be unique, we do have to respect those geographic boundaries. So for me, that's another avenue where we work with other agencies downstream, upstream, and they have impact on the way we operate. So once again, how do we connect what we do with what other agencies do, what our sub-agencies do? That to me has been a bit of a challenge, and learning all the different responsibilities, who to talk to, who is my counterpart. And I have been very fortunate in that it took about 10 months. I was 10 months on the job before the pandemic hit, and the pandemic has actually created a bit more of a barrier in terms of getting to know people and getting to understand different perspectives. Luckily, we have good technology that allows for that, but it still doesn't compete with just face-to-face interaction. So ultimately, I would say just the complexities of the overlapping responsibilities of all the different agencies in the Inland Empire, that's been probably one of the bigger challenges for me. But it's something I'm enjoying, and it's great to learn. And like I said, this exists not only in our region and our service area, but all water districts throughout California have this challenge as well.
Yeah, I know with COVID on the surge and the fact that we may be in lockdown for a while longer. I know you mentioned communicating with, your employees and trying to do that through technology. But are you using the same strategies for customers as well?
Yeah, and we're trying to take advantage of what technology can offer. One of the things that I was proud of, and it's fun for me to talk about our staff and the excitement I have. A lot of this was established well before I got to IUA from past leadership. But in March, when all of us had to face this pandemic that came upon us, IUA was very well situated from an information technology standpoint, where we have about 300 employees. And most of our focus in terms of field staff and operations is on our 5 wastewater treatment plants and collection system. So about 150 of us could not work from home, but those of us who could, the transition was really straightforward and simple, and the investment and planning and infrastructure that we had made really paid off. I don't know many other agencies who are very prepared from an emergency standpoint to deal with the pandemic. Most of us focus on the earthquake, which we're all used to, possibly fires, other challenges, but I don't think we were well prepared to deal with a pandemic specifically. But even separate from that, the fact that the investment was made early on with our network infrastructure, our devices, our laptops, the transition was pretty straightforward. So that made it easier. When it came to how we interact with the customers, we're actually working on some very significant issues related to renegotiating the contract that establishes the relationship between us, looking at new water supply projects and potential partnerships with the state. This was a challenge, and we've been trying to evolve over the past 6 months rather than a simple Teams meeting to generate input, sometimes hybrid meetings, sometimes when the detections or the positivity rates were going down a few months ago, we started including hybrid meetings where we would have social distancing. We'd even meet outdoors with a small group of people and incorporate technology. Unfortunately, many of the counties that we're all in are going back into that purple tier. So we've always taken the priority of protecting our staff and our community from exposure and risk. So that does put us back into the virtual world. And I think that the tools we're using at IUA are pretty consistent with what I've seen outside. But right now, when we do hear of, and we rely on some of our staff who are, I think, more comfortable communicating online. I am not one of those people, but there's a lot of other people across the generations who know how to do this. So we've leaned on them and said, hey, are there better ways we can do this? And we're finding that there are. And so we try to be a little experimental with this. And another thing we're trying to do is, I have a weekly email that goes out about COVID information, not only within San Bernardino County, but also at the state level. I can imagine as a reader, those could get tedious every week on Friday reading what the general manager said. So a few weeks ago, challenged our team to come up with creative ways to give updates. And it really blows my mind what certain staff and employees can do with technology. So we've come up with animated GIFs, different cartoons, different things that are done within, using maybe 3 or 4 staff hours to produce something that looks extremely professional to me. And that's been really effective because people want to maybe watch a 2-minute video rather than read my long email communicating statistics from local and regional areas. So we continue to look for new ideas, and even participating in a panel like this and listening to what my counterparts are doing is helpful. So.
Yeah. I think multimedia is the way to go. But I will say this, it all starts with writing. Since I do the same thing, our team focuses a lot on the writing side, because you have to have that. You have to have the information before you can even move on sometimes to some of the other things.
That's a great comment. I'd just like to add on that. I think that's absolutely correct in terms of how we communicate information. But even executing some sort of software solution, it's not as simple as just buying a product. You need to make sure those processes or that planning is there already, and then that software application can work. And it's the same example you're saying for developing content like that. So great point.
So just know you're smart. We're in good company. I knew you coming from the IE. I knew it.
Exactly.
There's several other water agencies in the Inland Empire that are coordinating your messages about the pandemic and potential impact on drinking water. How does that look in terms of having to coordinate with other agencies on top of not being able to really even, having to do all of this kind of virtually.
Yeah, another great point that I'd also say is not unique to the Inland Empire area, in that the role of the wholesaler and how it's coordinated with the retailer is very important. This to me is a great opportunity for our area. I think it's important to always respect that we as a wholesaler don't have that direct communication with the ratepayers. While our board is publicly elected by the communities we serve, our direct customers are the retail agencies. And so I think in the past, IUA has done a good job in terms of listening to what the retailers want in terms of how they communicate to the public, and trying to adapt and be that supplemental agency, not only in water, but in information. When the pandemic hit, we did the same thing where we reached out to all of them and said, how can we help you? We have a very diverse group of retailers, some that are extremely large, some that are municipalities, some that are special districts. So we really have to take a unique, tailored approach to that. We found that for the most part, larger agencies had that outreach covered. We felt it was our responsibility to leverage our membership of Metropolitan Water District, which, as mentioned earlier, is the nation's largest water district, and they have a tremendous amount of resources and very good about sharing. So we try to take that same model with our retailers, is how can we be there to help them and back them up. What we did find is that we would be a resource to provide information from Met, input from ourselves, also from other trade organizations like Aqua and CASA, and provide that information to the customers and then allow them to work with that. I do see going forward, though, and this is independent of the pandemic, that the opportunity exists that when it's time for rate increases, that's when the constituents, the ratepayers come out. They don't know to come to us. We will have a portion of any rate increase or rate impact. The utilities will. To me, it's important that we start the process now so that we can educate people that there are layers when it comes to water supply and delivery, and we all have a role and a responsibility there. So rather than do that at the time of approving rates, when then the finger pointing starts. So it is an initiative that I've brought up to our customers, and I'm sensing a lot of support for that. But now we just got to figure out how to do it, hopefully at the end of a pandemic, and then how we transition that outreach and communication as we go back to hopefully normal times soon.
Well, I know that we're coming close to the end of our time right now, and I had so many more questions for you. Maybe in short, you can just kind of tell us what you think the outlook for the water supply would be over the next few years.
Yeah, very, very briefly, we're in a good situation. We have the luxury of sitting on top of a groundwater basin and already a commitment to recycled water. I would point out one thing: we are a unique agency in that for imported water, we are one of the few Met agencies that only has access to state project supplies. So that's something that governs the way we look at imported supplies. But I'd say for the most part, we're well positioned due to the natural resources that we have locally.
Well, I know that we're coming close to the end of our time. I wanted to give any of the other panelists an opportunity to get some last thoughts and anything that any of your colleagues said that, you want to echo or want the audience to walk away with.
I'd like to echo what Roland was discussing about the silver tsunami. I encourage those watching today that don't know a lot about the water and wastewater industry to be involved.
Are we frozen?
Oh, are we frozen?
No, wait, you're okay.
Oh, okay. I would encourage those in the water and wastewater industry not in the water and wastewater industry today, watching, to learn about this business, get educated in this business, and seek opportunities, because it's a great field to work in, and it's very rewarding.
Great.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would echo that. It was great hearing what other folks are doing in terms of approaches to addressing COVID-19 and remote workforce, and seeing where there are congruencies and parallels, and also getting ideas of how we might do things differently. In terms of the next big thing for the Water Replenishment District and for our region, we're going to leverage our Water Independence Now efforts into a regional effort. There are still significant amounts of unused recycled water sources that can be developed with multi-agency partnerships, and are being developed now. And those can be used in conjunction with storage space in our groundwater basins to develop a completely locally sustainable supply. It means 100% of the total water demand in southern LA County would be locally sustainable with groundwater supplies. We refer to that as our Win for All, or 2040 plan, and planning efforts are underway now. Thank you, Regina.
No. Well, you know what? Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would just like to add that I think in this crisis, one of the things that has become really clear is that the water industry as a whole has really pulled together. I'd like to expand on something that Sivaji said with regard to being having member agencies and finding myself in the same situation. We really came together. As soon as the pandemic started, we opened our EOC, continued to have it open today, have communication on what each agency needs, any support that they need. And it's really been gratifying to see, as Sivaji was mentioning, we're more used to an earthquake or fires, which are short in time in terms of a crisis. We've never been faced with something that's been this long. And frankly, I think we're probably into it for another 9 to 12 months. And so this industry really has been so supportive and really look to do things differently, share lessons learned. Steve and I are part of CAAWEF, which is California Urban Water Agencies, the 11 largest agencies in the state. And we meet regularly and share and support each other. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to hear from everyone today in this forum, and also to engage folks with, this is a wonderful industry to be involved in. There's lots of opportunities at every level. And I hope that we spark some interest for folks in jumping in, because it's a great place to be.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great advice, great information on the outlook for 2021 from the water industry experts. And I want to thank all of our panelists and our audience for tuning in today. This concludes our broadcast, but I want to thank you all for taking the time out to share this wonderful and valuable information with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regina.